Nikki, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I
Hey,
am
Nick.
fantastic. Well, Landfill sent me the article that you and Mark Maskey wrote, and I had heard a little bit about it, and I started to see that, and I got a little excited. So I'm gonna say this: I've heard from somebody. Let me say it like that. They've talked to people inside the NFL that really wants this to happen. So, what you've
Yeah.
been seeing, do you see it working in that direction?
Yeah. I mean, they're one of multiple teams that are being considered right now. I think what's unique about DC is sort of the challenges of getting it on the mall and some of the restrictions that come with that. There's no commercialization or not as much commercialization allowed on the mall. You're not allowed to sell merchandise, typically alcohol if it's not allowed, but, they can make exceptions and have it in like designated areas. So there are a lot of things that run counter to your typical big NFL tentpole event. But if they can work through that, and I believe they can, and the NFL usually gets what it wants. So yeah, I think it could happen. And I think it's honestly a really strong sign of where the Commanders are at, because they had tried to get the 2024 draft, and that fell through for reasons probably many of us can speculate about.
Yeah.
So, with new ownership, that things starting to turn around, I think it would probably mean a lot to the NFL and certainly the Commanders to have, such a big event here in DC.
Looking at Detroit, and Detroit was a city that was depleted at one point, but they seem to be coming back. They set a record with over 775,000 people coming there in a 3-day period. You can automatically assume it'll be more people here in the Washington D.C. metropolitan area. And when I look at all the positives, I think they outweigh the negatives.
Yeah, I mean, this has always been a pretty loyal market for the NFL. I mean, obviously a couple down decades really for Washington, but this has been a loyal fan base and a marquee market for the longest time. And it, honestly, for economy-wise for the NFL, it's huge. To have the Commanders start to show signs of turning things around, that just opens up a lot of things for the NFL, and this is one of them. Having fans back in the seats at their stadium, that's huge for the NFL. So yeah, I would think DC would have a bigger turnout, and these have become huge events. I mean, the fact that 775,000 people showed up to watch Roger Goodell announce names it just shows the power of the NFL right there. So yeah, it shows the popularity, just how much it's worth to, these NFL cities that, get to host these things.
Power play also for ownership groups, a new ownership group, to give them a chip. I mean, they solved the problem for this league, and I would think the league owes them one for ridding them of a rodent.
I mean, I won't comment on that part, but I think the NFL is happy to have like the DC market go back to being a respectable market. I mean, this was again such a marquee franchise for the longest time. Economically, it's a huge market. I've heard people compare it to China just in terms of how much it can do for the NFL financially. So yeah, I think the NFL is thrilled that things are starting to turn around in DC, and it is a testament to what Josh Harris has done. He wasn't, they paid a good amount to get this team, no doubt, and yes. He'll have to pay a good amount going forward to get things in shape. But yeah, it's huge for the city if they really do get back on track.
We look at the things that are limited, on the mall and things like that. But Events DC is heavy into this thing. And we've heard a lot of talk about how DC was not getting a lot of income with the parking and a lot of people not coming into the city. Well, hell, for 3 days, I guarantee you could probably chalk up a lot of parking, hotel rooms, food. And if you allow drinking for a moment on the mall, you might sell more booze than you probably sold in a long time. Because one thing about NFL fans, they drink.
Oh yes, and even if there's like a one designated area, even if they have to work around sort of the rules and restrictions of the national mall, the NFL will find a way to sell things.
Yeah,
they always do. And I think Detroit, I think they originally estimated like $165 million in economic value that the draft would have, and I think right after the draft, those expectations were exceeded. So that's a huge infusion of money to go back into the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to calculate a lot of these things because there's direct and indirect cash flow from it, but that's a lot of people coming into the city. And I just think, to have a draft, you think about just some of the views, to have it on the mall, to have,
Yes.
if there's parts of it on Pennsylvania Avenue with a Capitol in the background, my goodness, that would be incredible.
What's your gut tell you?
I think it'll happen. I do. I mean, I think,
do too.
Yeah, I think the NFL wants DC back, and I think they would very much love to hold a tentpole event here. Just in kind of reading between the lines, I haven't been told that directly from anybody, but I don't think you need to be told that from anybody. It's a major market. So yeah, I think it'll happen. We'll see though. There's still a lot of hoops to go through, and they may not even announce it for another year. And they're still deciding between a number of other cities.
Yeah, and like they like to announce things like maybe 2 years ahead of time. And when we look at a lot of the things that hold you back in DC, where they don't allow certain things to happen a year prior.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's a huge hang up.
That's
for
why I
mall.
believe those things can change as well.
Yeah.
You can make concessions for a major event like this, and that would be a damn major event.
Yeah. And going through some of the emails and documents we've obtained, there were conversations about that. I mean, that, NBS says the National Park Service, which manages the mall and the monuments, they don't accept permit applications a year out. The NFL typically likes 2 years. I mean, they just announced Pittsburgh for 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And they do need that time because they're such huge events. But, again, as you said, there's always a workaround, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I think it would be really cool to have it here. It would be a lot of congestion downtown, so I feel for everybody that lives in the vicinity, but it would be pretty epic.
Well, I sure hope we get some good news. We could use it. And I think the Packers, if I'm not mistaken, are next year.
Yep.
Yep. And that would be just a good way to follow that. By then, we should be back at least in position to be respected again.
Yep. Packers, then Green Bay, and then Pittsburgh, and then initially there were conversations about 2026 and 27 to host a draft, but the NFL went to Pittsburgh for 26. So yeah, 2027 is next up.
Oh yeah. Are there any other things that are going on, like in the business sector? Because what I like about it is that the business stuff we've been discussing is normally positive, not like the other stuff we were dealing with. I know they hired a lot of new people and things of that nature, but they purchased a product that was damaged, and they have to put it back in place. And I think they've done a damn good job doing all that.
Definitely, and I think they acquired something that was, probably more damaged than even they expected, and they've looked at it more in depth than the casual fan too. I mean, they went through the books, they tore. They know every in and out of the franchise now, and they're, I think that first year was probably, they turned over many stones, and you're like, oh my gosh, had no idea this was coming. And you think back to even last year, the games, the hot water breaking and how many leaks. I mean, so many freaking leaks at that stadium, and just things that no other organization really encounters on a weekly basis, just because it was let go for so long.
Yeah, it could be week to week or leak to leak.
There you go.
It could be either one of them. But,
exactly.
But getting back on, going on to the field, Nicki, and Doc and I were talking just a moment ago about the best case and worst case scenario for the 2024 season, basically. And my stuff is, I know we always go to the quarterback, but I go to the people that block for the quarterback.
Yeah.
If that offensive line can be above average, they have a chance, because Jayden could be unbelievable, and if his offensive line completely sucks, he's gonna probably suck.
Yeah, I think it starts with the front five totally.
Yeah,
it always has. I think last year maybe too much attention was focused on how many sacks was Sam Howell allowing versus the offensive line. Well, either way, it's a huge number of sacks, and the offense is trash.
Totally.
The scheme did nothing to protect it. The play calling did nothing to protect it. I mean, they were all over the place. It wasn't just Sam Howell or the O-line or this and that. All of it sucked, right?
Yeah.
But I think now that you're starting to, you feel like it's more buttoned up now. Now you feel like they're starting to try to develop guys, at least from what we've seen in the OTAs and minicamp, and hopefully we see more of the same in training camp. So you hope you really start to see real progress, not incremental progress like it feels like it had been the last 4 years, but real progress. And it has to always start with that front five, and the left tackle spot will always be one of the premium positions. And it's not the fact of the matter is it's not settled there. They don't have a marquee name there. They have Cornelius Lucas, who's been a pretty good swing tackle, and has been in the league a long time, and to his credit, did so as an undrafted guy, and a really young guy that people really know little about. So yeah, I think this. I mean, who knows? They could be like the Texans were last year and really light up the league. I think the more realistic expectation is, they show significant progress, but also show that the work is not done. You can't totally fix a 4-13 team instantly. And they did a lot of work in year one, but that left tackle spot, if it's still an issue, is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you can always help your offensive line with tight ends and running backs like it used to be done. And this last group refused to do that. And so there are other ways, and you just got to hope that they coach them up. It's not just the personnel. The scheme has a lot to do with it.
Yes. They talked about doing it a lot with the scheme last year, never actually did it.
Well, I'll tell you, I do this. I hear people talk about certain things, then I watch the tape and I watch the game.
Yeah.
I never saw nobody chipping and helping.
Never.
Yeah.
So you tell me, and I saw that it wasn't just last year; it was previous years too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
4 years.
I know Norv did it. I don't know why the hell Scott didn't. And then last year it didn't happen with Eric Allen, and I thought they would.
Yeah, and they really didn't. They didn't have the personnel. They didn't have the scheme. I mean, they had one decent blocking tight end, I would go so far as to say.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
It's a
weird.
bad deal. You can't
How many
cover it
blitzes
up.
did Sam get, drilled on? I mean, countless.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like the backs blocked really well in the early going, and then you could just kind of see it wane as the season went on.
Yeah, and then we refused to pressure people defensively.
Yeah.
So it was just a complete – this will be down as an example. 50 years from now, they'll be bringing this up as a test example of what not to do, and one of the worst examples of incompetence ever.
Sadly, I've seen worse, but
well, really, where? Tell me about where was worse than what we've just experienced.
Denver had a few down years there for a bit.
Oh yeah, okay. You mean outside of this? Okay, my bad. I thought you meant here.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, there's been some, but no, I mean, it's getting Hayden Daniels. You hope he really develops and shows much of what he did at LSU at the pro level. I mean, that'll always be the most important position on the field. If you have a good quarterback, you're going to go as far as he goes. But they need to develop guys too. They have such a young secondary, and there was no development. You know, it's a pros. I know you're expected to just know and do certain things, but you're getting like 19, 20-year-olds out here nowadays. Like, you got to develop these guys.
You know what helps?
You got to have a coach to do that.
You know,
the guy went to 7-Eleven and hired his coaches. What are you talking about?
Nah, but you know what? I'm gonna give you a shot at that, Nicki. Best case, worst case scenario.
Best case, a deep run in the playoffs.
All right.
I mean, Super Bowl. I'd say deep run in the playoffs. Worst case, repeat of last year. I think that I think last season there was a ton of optimism by myself included, especially for that secondary. I thought they added a ton of depth, starter quality guys, and it was awful. So yeah, it's a huge range for them. They could go either way, just because they're a total unknown, and I think being an unknown has its advantages too. So.
All right. Well, Nicki, I forgot. I don't know if I told you I have a little 3-month-old grandson.
You did tell me.
So
yeah.
My daughter sent me an email, a little video just now. He's starting to crack up laughing. So,
oh yeah, isn't that the best?
Listen, every day now is something new with this little dude.
Totally, it's the best. It's the best.
Oh, yeah.
I sit and stare at mine for that's what I do most of the days now. Just stare at him, watch him laugh and smile. It's great.
And they get to the point where, you know what? When you used to them making noise, they begin to just chill out and they go like, "Mom, I got you. Don't worry about that."
Yeah, exactly. Like him right now. He's just chilling. He was screaming 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. See, he said, "You know what? She's not coming. She must be doing something. Let me chill out." They pick up early.
If only he would do this at 3 a.m.,
Well, good luck to you, and you go take care of him now.
All right.
All right, Nicki.
All right, that's Nicki Jhabvala joining us here on the B. Mitch and Finley Show.